Welcome to the Arrive Podcast, the U.S. Immigration Law podcast for Canadians. Today we're going to be talking about what to look for when you're hiring an attorney, and specifically what to look for when you're hiring an immigration attorney or an immigration lawyer to represent you in your case. And the questions that we suggest that you go through in your head when you're doing your research and when you're talking to attorneys and trying to select one to represent you in your matter. So one of the first things you want to look for is, what is the quality of that representation that you're getting? What is the quality of that firm or the attorney that you're hiring? And what does quality mean? Well, quality means professionalism. Like, what are you going to get with that attorney, with that representation?
Right, like what level of responsiveness is going to be good for you? So do you want somebody who's going to take a week to respond to your emails? Do you want an email response the next day? Are they going to be someone who picks up the phone every time you call? Someone you got to schedule a call with in advance? You know, figure that out, because it could be frustrating for both the attorney and you if you're looking for something, a level of responsiveness that attorney isn't able to give you.
Yes, and you can tell a lot from your initial contact to the firm that you're looking into.
True.
So how long does it take them to answer the phone when you call? If you answer the phone, do they want a fee just to speak to them? Are you even able to get to an attorney? Are they going to schedule you an attorney? Who's answering that phone, and how do they treat you? You can tell a lot from that initial call, and how responsive they are. If you do a web inquiry through their website or wherever it might be, how long are they take to respond to that?
If you do an email web inquiry, are you getting an email back right away, or are you waiting a week before they get back to you?
Yeah,
that's a good indicator into how they're going to treat you once you're a client of theirs, because if they're not getting back to you right away when you're looking for an attorney, once you're a paying client, is it going to get any better or worse? You know, usually it stays about the same.
Or gets worse.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in my experience, I think it gets worse. We get a lot of people who call us who say, I have an immigration case, I have some questions about it, but the attorney I have isn't answering
we ask
my
them,
emails.
So do you have an attorney already representing you?
My company
yes.
has an attorney, or I have one, but they're just not responding. They're not answering my calls, they're not answering my emails.
I sent them 3 emails and they haven't got back to me, and I need to know the answer today.
And I will say, we do not do that. We respond to inquiries and phone calls and emails in a timely manner. That's what we're here for.
Right. Well,
to answer those questions.
And
a lot of the
pick
times,
up the phone when you call.
No, because we might be on the phone with somebody else or dealing with another matter.
Right, but we'll get back to you
as soon as we can.
Quickly, yeah.
Especially if it's an urgent matter, we're going to get back to you as quick as we can. And that's another thing to take into account. You know, if it were just me, well, I might not be available all the time because I'm dealing with many different things. Maybe
like
I'm
if
down
you were
at
a solo
USCIS,
attorney.
yes, or maybe whatever it might be. Well, if that firm has multiple employees, office managers, secretaries, paralegals, attorneys, well, there's a lot of individuals that can assist you, even if that one person you're trying to contact isn't there. So look at the level of professionalism you're going to get. What's that quality of representation? And people look at cost, right? When they're doing that analysis, what's the quality? Well, cost isn't always an indicator of the representation you're going to get, but it can be. If you're calling around to attorneys and an attorney says, you know what, I'm going to handle and I'm just going to throw out some random numbers. If I'm going to handle your TN visa application for you for $500, and then you call another firm and they say, I'm going to handle your TN visa application for you for $6,000. Well, which one is good and which one is bad, and how do you make how do you determine what the level of representation you're going to get there?
Is this one of those you get what you pay for situations, or is it, you can go budget and get the same kind of quality work
elsewhere?
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you going to get the knockoff product and get the same things you would with the real deal,
the designer brand,
or not?
Yeah.
Right? Is that knockoff product going to fail real quick, or
Yeah.
the designer brand's going to last you a long time? I'll say, in my experience, you often get what you pay for in everything, even with legal representation. If it's really, really cheap, the fee that they're charging you, you're probably going to get somebody who's very experienced or get a very low level of representation. So the quality generally is attached to the fee. A more experienced attorney is probably going to charge you more. I'll say our fees are a lot more than they were when we were starting out. Why? Well, our experience we have a lot more experience. The quality that we provide is better. We have more staff. All of these things you're getting with that. So the quality representation improves because of that. So you get a lot more for what you're paying. So although price isn't the end all be all, don't just hire an attorney based on their fee. Because if you do, you could be getting what you're paying for in a bad way. So be careful when you're looking at the fee. Reviews. That's also a good way to determine whether there's a good attorney out there.
That's a good way, yeah, because people don't leave good reviews if they're getting bad representation. So look for that as an indicator. Obviously the more good reviews, the better chance you have that this attorney is going to be someone who's responsive, somebody who handles your matter professionally, and somebody who you want to work with.
And do they have reviews for the type of situation that you're looking into?
True, yeah.
Right.
Do they have reviews from clients that have had the same type of matter with that attorney and have had a positive experience?
And when you're speaking with that attorney, hopefully you get to speak with them before you hire them. You'd speak to us definitely before you're going to hire us or we hire you. I say it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You're going to speak to one of us. We're not going to send out a retainer or retaining somebody without speaking to them. So when you have that conversation, see if they can back it up. If they can talk about, ask them directly, do you have experience in this situation that I have? I'm marrying a U.S. citizen.
Right.
I'm
So
Canadian.
for example, there's a lot of immigration attorneys who do business immigration, but they don't have any business acumen. I've seen it time and again. They don't really know what type of questions to ask. They may retain somebody who's ineligible for a type of visa, and then they're scrambling on the back end to make it fit. You want to talk to somebody who understands your business, who at least has a basic understanding of business structure, and can ask you the type of questions they need to determine whether or not your eligibility is there before they retain you.
Yes, exactly.
Or you retain them, pardon me.
Yeah, and if you're dealing with, let's say, TN visas, for example, well, there's 63 different professions on the TN professions list. Every one of them has different qualifications, and the approach is different. Have they dealt with your specific case? If you're a management consultant, have they actually done a case for a management consultant? If they have, how successful are they at them? Have they dealt with a third country national getting a TN visa, which can be even more complicated, right? You're not Canadian born, so you're educated in another country. Well, how's that going to impact your TN application? Do they have reviews to support it? We won't give you a name of a client for confidentiality purposes. We're not going to say XYZ is our client, call them. But if you Google us and you research us, you're going to find reviews. You're going to find examples of the casework we've done in the past, and we'll share examples with you over the phone too, and explain how we have experience in your specific matter. But reviews are important, especially in today's world, where you can go online and easily
and make
search
sure the
that
reviews
attorney.
are recent too. So if somebody's got a bunch of reviews out there
5
and they're
years
from
old.
2019, that may not be a good representation of where they're at with their firm right now and the type of service they're offering.
Yeah, and not everybody gives reviews. Some people will. We get emails and calls all the time. I just got off the phone with somebody today who just got approved for their e-visa, and he was over the moon. Probably not going to leave a review. So reviews, you get them for the people that are willing to do it, and if somebody has a really bad experience, they're going to share that as well, and it'll be out there. But
And sometimes you're more likely to get those too, if you have a really bad experience. So look for that as well. Some law firms have some pretty crummy reviews out there.
Not to mention
Don't just read the 5-star ones. Read the 1-star ones.
I always read the bad reviews first. I don't read. I'm serious.
You
I don't
read them first.
Yeah, I don't read the 5-star reviews.
Oh,
I read the negative ones, and then I'll go to the 5-star. But you need to take these reviews also for what they are, right? Sometimes
It's somebody's opinion.
exactly, and if you're pleasing everybody all the time, there's a problem, in my opinion, too. So if somebody has flawless reviews and they've never had a bad experience, that's not telling the whole story. I think some people do weed them out and try to avoid getting them, right? Whereas you're going to have client experiences where it's not going to go perfectly. It's not going to, and you can't please everybody 100% of the time all the time, right? And that's why it's very important when you're selecting an attorney or a client that it's a good fit. Because if it's not, it could end up being a bad experience for both of you, just because it wasn't a good fit from the beginning. So look at those reviews. They're out there. Ask for them. Ask for case-specific examples to make sure they've dealt with the thing that you're dealing with. And verify for yourself. And referrals, right? Ask your family and friends if they've dealt with someone before.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to find somebody good too. If you have a friend or family member that's gone through a similar process to you and they have a name for you, that's probably the first place to start.
And they may not put a review online, but they would give you a recommendation face to face, right? Say, yeah, I've dealt with these people, they're great.
Now what about, people choosing an attorney based on years of experience or,
Yes.
years that they've been in that practice area?
Absolutely.
Or, even on geographical location. Some people say, I only want to work with an attorney if they're, for example, we get calls from people in Canada that say, oh, I want my U.S. immigration attorney to be in Canada.
Wow, so you just hit on several different ones
Yeah.
that I think are all important. So let's go back to experience first. Experience is absolutely important, especially in immigration. And I would say immigration specific experience. So if you're dealing with a law firm and they deal with 20 different practice areas, well, how much experience do they really have with immigration? Maybe a 100-year-old law firm, but when did they open their immigration practice? And does that attorney they have only do immigration?
Mm-hmm.
And what level of experience do they have with immigration? And how many years of it? I would say that if you're under 5 years in the field of immigration and you're just dealing with immigration, there's still a lot to learn. Once you hit the 8-10 years plus, that's where you're becoming very proficient. And that's if you only deal with immigration and only deal with certain types of cases, right?
And I would add to that. So if you're, with a family-based immigration, maybe just an immigration attorney is going to be enough. But with a lot of these business immigration issues, you want somebody who's got maybe some corporate experience as well to help navigate the different business options for you and understand your organization.
Yeah, did this attorney have a career before law school? Right.
Or did they practice in more than one area of the law throughout their career?
Yeah, that helped develop their
develop their immigration ability now, right?
Yeah, for example, as a lawyer, I've only done immigration and primarily dealt with Canadians, doing TN visas, L visas, family matters, E visas, business expansion, stuff around Canadians doing business in the United States. That's what we do. You're Canadian, you went through the process yourself, right? But dealing specifically with that. And prior to that, what did I do? Well, I was in business, sales, marketing for 10 years before I even went to law school. So when you work with us,
I practiced fresh out of law school in corporate and securities for years in New York City. So I have that background, that business experience, that understanding of corporate structures that helps me now in my business immigration practice.
Yeah, we've actually both worked in the business field. So that helps a lot when you're dealing with business matters. And then in family matters, you've gone through the family situation yourself. Family matters are much less complex, but you still need to be experienced. You need to know what's going to happen if you file a certain form or a certain thing happens with a case. You need to be able to analyze people's biographic documents to verify, whether or not they're acceptable.
There's actually a message board that we subscribe to that has different immigration practitioners ask questions of other practitioners. A lot of solos out there who don't have somebody to bounce ideas off of post on there, and we often see immigration attorneys posting questions on there that surprise me, and I think you as well, because they're so basic, and you question whether or not this attorney, I think to myself, they probably shouldn't have taken on this matter
Correct.
if they don't have the basic understanding to be able to answer or find the answer in you know, the books and the legal research themselves, and then instead they're asking you know, the immigration bar to assist them with this. And you'll find that with newer practitioners, so you know, that would be completely
Solos
understandable with, yeah, I mean, with someone fresh out of law school who's taken on immigration practice, I'm sure you had a lot more questions back when you started. But we see some very seasoned immigration attorneys asking very basic questions. It always shocks me to think that they would put that out there.
It's almost embarrassing to see some of the questions.
Yeah.
How do they not know that?
Yeah, and
Or
they may
could have
say, I
found the
don't
answer
really
quick.
practice in this area, or I haven't done many cases like this, and I
And you
think to
shouldn't
myself,
have taken the case.
you probably shouldn't have taken on the case. And so, you know, when you're choosing someone, make sure they're familiar with what they're doing for you, and they've done it before.
And that's a benefit of having a business partner, right? We talk to each other all the time throughout the day. If we have a question or second guessing ourselves, then we bounce those questions off of each other. Maybe I've had an experience in the past that you haven't, or you've had an experience that I haven't, and we go back and forth.
You're just second guessing your decision, right?
We even go to our paralegals all the time.
I've done this before, but it's been a few months. This is the right way to do it, right? And you have someone there to say, yeah,
it's been a while since I did this.
I did one last week, so here's how you do it. Yeah.
And then paralegals too. That's another great resource. We have some very experienced paralegals, and they are dealing with things on a very frequent basis, whereas we may step back a little bit sometimes because we're on calls or doing other things, right? And they help refresh our memory on
They
things.
are the number one resource for our clients, especially with, you know, the day-to-day questions that you get and how to fill in certain information, you know, how it's going to affect their case.
Changing forms,
They've seen it.
evidence.
These paralegals have seen it all before, so they're really a great resource for our clients. Very valuable.
Yeah, experience is definitely something you should look into. In that specific area, you can't overemphasize that enough.
Mm-hmm.
In immigration.
Correct.
If they're dabbling in immigration, watch out.
Sure, yeah, like those general practitioners.
See them a lot too.
Sure, I do immigration cases, or, you know, it's not a good idea.
Only immigration. Do not hire an immigration attorney if they do anything else. That's my opinion, and I'll stand by it. Just because immigration is so complicated, so complex, ever changing. If that person does anything other than immigration, and they better do a large volume of immigration cases too.
They say that, you know, immigration law is second only in complexity to tax law in the United States, so you want somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and does it all the time.
Right. And so bar admission, does that matter? What if I'm admitted in Virginia and I'm practicing immigration law, and my client's in Florida or Canada for that matter?
Yeah, and that goes back to that other question you had too about where is that attorney located?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for immigration law, it's federal. So as long as you're admitted to a bar, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, a bar of any state in the United
because
States.
you're practicing federal law.
Then you're eligible to practice it.
And location really doesn't matter either for immigration law. Why? Because it's federal.
Well, I think it matters that you know, you want your attorney to be in the United States. You don't really want to work with a U.S. immigration practitioner in your home country.
No.
Especially in this day and age. Sure, it maybe
well, everything's filed in the U.S., right?
But it made sense back before email and before everything was electronic to have an attorney that you could go to their office and talk to them face to face.
Get on a video call, send them an email.
In this day and age, you want somebody who's doing immigration every day. You're going to be speaking to a practitioner inside the United States. We've had a lot of calls from people speaking to practitioners in Canada and other countries that practice U.S. immigration law. You know, and it's hit or miss.
They've never been to a border interview. They've never been to a USCIS interview. They've never seen a lot of this stuff face to face
because they're not eligible to practice here. Yeah, and they can't even do it because they're not eligible to practice in the United States.
And that's a lot of our experience comes from actually going to the Peace Bridge, for example, and standing there with a client applying for a TN visa or an L1 visa. Yeah, but that experience is even more valuable now because you can't do it anymore.
Right.
And those years going to the port and seeing how this process works. attending naturalization interviews and marriage interviews with clients on a regular basis at USCIS. If you're not in the country, you don't have that experience, and you can't get that from a book.
No, definitely not. So you want to make sure that your U.S. immigration practitioner is inside the United States, and any state will do.
Yes, it will. But also be careful there too, because if you're Canadian and you're hiring an attorney in Texas,
yeah, their practice isn't focused on you, that's for sure.
That's probably southern border,
Yeah.
right? Not northern border.
Yeah.
So that location in the U.S. is important for that matter. I'm looking out the window right now. Behind us, you can't see it, but the Peace Bridge is there. That's Lake Erie. Lake Erie's right there, and
You gotta remind
that's
yourself what lake
what
that
is
was.
that? What town is that?
That's Fort Erie.
Fort Erie, no, but and Crystal Beach. So you have Crystal
Yeah.
Beach and Fort Erie and
I mean,
the
we
Peace
can literally
Bridge.
see Canada from our office window. So, and I'm Canadian, so we're very familiar
And
with
if
the
I were Uncle
requirements.
Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, I could throw a rock and hit the Peace Bridge right now.
So, that geography doesn't matter as far as admission and ability to
Well,
practice
and
in that area.
USCIS is 2 blocks down the road.
Right.
We could walk to
And we do.
USCIS.
We walk there and drop stuff off all the time.
And the
so-
Peace Bridge, if we really wanted to, is right there, and we could drop stuff off at the Peace Bridge if we had to do it.
I mean, so as far as geography goes, I think, if you are Canadian and you want somebody who's familiar with dealing with Canadians and,
There's no
the
better-
kind of documents that come from Canada, and you want somebody who's on the northern border, because they'll have more experience doing what you're doing.
And I'll put everything on that when it comes to experience with Canadians, we can't be matched. And part of that is because where we're located, we see Canadians daily. 90% of who we talk to on a daily basis is a Canadian, and that's what our client makeup is. So when it comes to Canadians coming to the United States, either through family or business or whatever it might be, we've seen it.
Well, they're my people, so.
They're my people too. I love Canadians.
All right, so, it doesn't matter where you are, but now how about admission to the bar doesn't matter, but what about membership in professional organizations? So you see a lot of attorney websites list all kinds of organizations that they're members of, like the Erie County Bar, or the New York State Bar, or...
I'm not gonna, you don't want my honest opinion here, but I will say a lot of them are money grabs. And that's my honest opinion.
A lot of those memberships.
If you are new, let's say you are a new attorney, you absolutely want to verify that they're members of those organizations. One of them would be American Immigration Lawyers Association, or AILA.
I think that's probably the most valuable one if you're looking for
If
an
you're
immigration
new, right?
lawyer.
Yeah.
Well,
if they're
no,
a new practitioner.
Even if they're seasoned, because
Yeah.
AILA does publish a lot of new information. So
They do.
whenever there's changes, they keep us abreast of what's going on in immigration law. So we don't have to constantly
But you should
surf
already
the web to figure that out.
But it's also
We-
stuff that
it's in our inbox in the morning.
Yeah.
So when you call us and ask us a question about a change to the U.S. immigration law, we typically have that information at our fingertips as a benefit of that membership. So I would say that is the number one thing you should look for immigration attorneys, AILA membership.
especially if they're new though, and I'll emphasize that because if you're new, you're gonna find a lot of information. There's message boards and groups you can be a part of to get that information. The longer you practice though, we can argue that point, but it gets to the point where if you practice long enough, it's gonna provide very little resource to you in the end other than updates. So yeah.
Which I think is a very valuable resource,
Yeah.
especially
I'd
get
stay
calls.
you stay on top of that anyway
there
too.
are some
though, right?
clients that, you do as part of your daily practice, but it makes it easier so that
Makes it easier.
sometimes we get in here at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning and there's been an update over the weekend.
Yeah.
And we get a phone call first thing from a client saying, hey, how does this affect my case? And
So if you were to look for one membership and it's an attorney
Yeah,
for
AILA.
immigration, it'd be AILA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and now what about consultations? So when you book a consultation with an attorney, some of them are ask for a lot of money to speak to them, and some of them
Thumbs
some of them
down.
like us don't charge for those types
We
of
dabbled in that though, right? I'm not gonna. We can't say we never have, but bad experiences with
I
it.
honestly
and
believe that some attorneys have to charge in order to do consultations. There's a very experienced practitioner that I'm familiar with that practices only in a specific area of the law, and a consultation with him can be upwards of $750. In a lot of areas, other than immigration, that's a very normal practice to charge a consultation. Even some immigration attorneys charge a consultation fee.
I'll never charge one.
Well,
I'm not a fan.
we don't do the typical consultation.
No,
so
it's an assessment, right?
It's an
you
assessment
call us,
for your case.
what's
right.
going on? You know, do you have a job offer? Do you have a family member? We're gonna walk through the basics of your situation to determine a fit.
Right.
I don't really want to take money from somebody until I know that I can provide the service that they're looking for. And I may have, and you too, I have people I talked to a year ago call back. Hey, I talked to you 2 years ago. I'm ready to move forward. Or and I have a call I just scheduled today. I've talked to him 3 times. Why? Because there's little facts I want to get in order before I'm comfortable saying, okay, your case is one we can handle. We can represent you properly. Let's move forward. This is how much it's going to cost to take care of it for you.
Right. So when you call our firm looking to speak to an attorney, you have some questions about an immigration case, whether or not you need an attorney. The first person you're going to talk to is probably our office manager, who's going to ask you a few questions about your case and determine whether or not it's something we do, because there are some areas of immigration that we just don't even touch.
Yeah, you maybe have somebody in deportation proceedings. Well, we don't handle immigration court, so our office manager will quickly refer you out to an attorney that we know that does those cases very well.
Right, we have a couple great recommendations.
Or you may have a tax question. We don't do that either.
Sure,
or business formation,
that
like
comes up.
you're incorporating.
Right,
well,
or you may not be at the stage where you need an immigration attorney yet. So I'm just thinking about getting engaged, and I want to know what
General
the fiance
questions.
visa process looks like, and we'll say, well, give us a call back once you're engaged, because then we can really walk through the timelines and give you an understanding.
Theoreticals are hard to deal with.
Or I'm thinking about opening a business in the U.S., but I don't have a business in Canada right now. But I'm just thinking I may want to do that. Well, you got to hammer down your plans. What kind of business is this? Where where is it going to be? How much money are you going to be investing in that? So once you know that information, then we can have a call with you. It'll be more valuable for you once you have that info, because we can give you some input. Otherwise, it's just kind of a shot in the dark call. So that's the first person you'll speak with is our office manager. Once she determines we're able to possibly help you out, she'll schedule you a call with either Jeremy or I, and then we'll be able to really flesh out.
And we don't charge for that.
No, we don't charge for that call. And it's basically a get to know you kind of call. We figure out what type of help you need and determine whether or not we can do it.
Yeah. And personally, that's the way I'm most comfortable, because I've charged in the past. But again, we do a lot of questions and answers for people who are clients or former clients, where they just have basic questions. And most times we don't charge for that.
No.
We charge when we're actually representing you and doing a case for you.
Right. So every attorney works differently. You got to figure out what works best for you. Some it may be worthwhile to pay a consultation fee. If you talk to us, we're definitely not going to be giving you any specific legal advice in that call.
We don't even have a link on our site for a consultation.
But we'll have a conversation with you to determine whether or not we can help you. That's going to help you determine the best option for you as well. So, and then that speaks a lot to fit as well. So, you may be somebody that knows specifically what you want, knows the practitioner you want to work with. If that's the case and they charge a consultation fee, then great, that might be a good fit for you. But you got to figure that out, right? So what's going to work for you and your family?
Do you need a TN? A visa? Do you need an L1 visa? Do you need an E visa? What is it that you need? And talking to somebody can help you determine whether or not that person has the experience in that area, whether they can help you out. And in that conversation, you'll find out whether or not it's a good fit.
Yeah, and I always think that it's not the best place to start to call an immigration attorney, frankly. You should hit Google first. Yeah. Hit Google up first and try to figure out, get a little bit of a general understanding, and then you'll get more value out of a call with us once you have a basic understanding.
It's kind of like a job interview, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
before you go and sit down in a chair across from somebody interviewing, you better know something about their company and whether or not that company's somewhere you want to work. Yeah. Same thing with an immigration attorney or an attorney in that. Matter.
There's nothing more frustrating than getting a call and somebody says, "Oh, I want to immigrate to the United States." So we go through the standard questions. Do you have any family here? Do you have any business opportunities here? Do you have an employer that's looking to hire you here? If the answer to all of those questions is no, the call can't really go much further
You just
until
wasted everybody's time.
that person identifies how they plan to immigrate to the United States. So a little bit of Googling before you call is gonna give you much more value in the time that you're taking to speak to an attorney.
And you're hiring each other there too, right? Is it a good fit? Because we turn people away just because it's not a good fit. Either the case isn't something we have enough expertise in,
Right.
we're not comfortable with it, but sometimes we're not comfortable with the situation at all. And it's just not a good fit. So we move on and we recommend somebody else. So it goes both ways.
Right, it's not like you can't find an attorney to do it, we're just not the right one sometimes.
Exactly.
And so fees now, attorneys have different ways of charging for their services. Some attorneys, and I've worked at law firms where they do an hourly rate.
Billable hours.
The hourly rate, so you get a bill at the end of your service. You may get it partway through or even a retainer to start as part of the process, and they'll charge, sometimes $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, sometimes even higher depending on the experience of the attorney you're getting. Versus the other option, which is a flat rate fee. So in immigration law, a flat rate fee is a little bit easier to work with, I think, sometimes than an hourly rate, because we do have set services, right? And there's specific things that happen in an immigration case, and there's usually a predictable
amount of time
and pathway for the case. So for that reason, we charge a flat rate fee. So we can tell you in a phone call upfront how much the legal fees are going to be for the service we provide.
And that's all you would expect to pay.
Right. And if there are additional possible fees, we'll mention that as well. So if there's a way that your case could go south and require different legal input, we'll detail that to you. So you have a clear understanding of what it's going to cost to your business or to you personally to go through the process.
And sometimes cases are way more complex than we thought they were in the beginning, but guess what? It's a flat fee. We don't then go back to the client and say, oh, we need more money. It's not
which
how it
happens
works.
with an hourly rate, right? So they may give you a budget, hey, I think this is going to take us 10 hours, this is our hourly rate, and then ends up taking 20 hours. They don't bill you for that, so just be careful. And the good thing about a flat rate fee is if you email us or you call us, you're not paying you're not paying for every time we pick up the phone or start typing.
Or a paralegal answers your question or does something, you're not being charged as part of that flat fee.
It's all rolled into one predictable cost, so that's the benefit of a flat fee. Some attorneys still do use the billable hour for.
I'll tell you right now, if we charge billable, it'd be more than our flat. On most cases, you'd be paying more, because these cases can they're never the way that it appears on its face. You get the initial facts.
There's always complicating factors.
Yes.
Everybody's situation is different, so
and you find out something else. Oh wait, you didn't tell me about that.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is different.
Yeah.
So, flat fee can save your bacon, I think, if you're hiring an attorney, because you know exactly what you're going to pay for, and if complications arise, most of the time that's covered in the flat fee. Depends on what it is.
And if it's not, we'll tell you up front. So
this is outside of that retainer. It's going to cost an additional X amount to do that.
Yeah. So as opposed to the hourly rate where
up
it
front.
could be a mystery cost at the end.
This is my favorite one. The last thing to look for. This is probably my favorite discussion. Big law versus boutique. And what's the difference?
Or versus solo.
Right.
So the big law would be a huge law firm with multiple practice areas, possibly hundreds of attorneys. Benefit of that is that if you have the need for an attorney outside of the immigration realm, you'll have access to that.
In-house.
Right. You'll have access to attorneys in those fields as well. And that can work great for some clients. Some clients already have.
Fees are generally higher if you're working with big law too.
Generally higher, generally an hourly billable hour situation. They're used to working with bigger clients, and
Experience is typically, in my experience, especially with immigration, they're probably not going to have that niche specific experience you're looking for either. most big law firms for immigration know how to do, for example, H-1Bs and L visas, but
Well,
then
so typically if you're dealing with big law and it's an immigration practice, they're used to doing their immigration practice as a service to their existing corporate clients.
yes,
So it's kind of a side area that they have within their firm to answer questions and make applications on behalf of existing clients. So if you're coming to them as an individual or a smaller business, even a bigger business that doesn't need, maybe you already have in-house counsel, and you just need some one-off immigration assistance with hiring somebody, that may not be the best choice for you.
Yeah. If you want that, and if you want that individualized attention and experience, you're probably not going to get it.
Right, so, big law can work for some clients. The other option, solo practitioners, that's just one attorney in an office.
I've started that way, so it's not the worst, but I can speak, when you start
I've
solo,
worked as a solo too, but it's,
the experience level,
and
right?
resources,
And
right?
resources.
So the legal resources available to a solo, you don't have the mindset, you don't have the mind of another attorney.
Plus,
to
if
bounce
that
off of.
solo's
But-
gone, who's
yeah.
going to take care of you?
Right, and those are the people that are, asking questions on a message board.
Yeah.
Because they don't have another attorney to quiz or to verify
You
that
have
the
double the
information their
experience
research
when you have.
is accurate, right?
Yeah. Plus, if you're out of the office, you're out of the office, right? How accessible are you going to be? If I'm out of the office, you're in the office.
Yeah.
So
Typically.
you can ask, either one of us if you have questions, and we have paralegals and office managers. There's all this level of staff that's there to assist. So you're not just left, all alone.
Yeah, so sometimes solo can work, it can be a great option. Other times you may want to consider having your case handled by a boutique firm. So maybe big law isn't right for you, but you also don't want to go the route of just having only one attorney handling all the cases in the firm. A boutique firm will have more than one attorney, but we'll have a practice area that's very focused. So for example, our practice area is immigration. That's all we do. You're a boutique firm. We have only 2 attorneys. Some boutique firms have more than that, may have a handful or even more attorneys, but they only practice in one practice area.
And ours is even, you can even be more specific that it's primarily with Canadians too.
So within our boutique firm, we have a niche practice area that we've developed, dealing specifically with Canadian citizens.
If you need a TN visa?
Their U.S. immigration needs. That's very niche. I mean, if you think of all the other citizenships in the world, and we're dealing specifically with one, we have
Very specific experience.
well, right, and we have very specific experience, but in addition, we have a very strong familiarity
Yeah.
with the needs and requirements of that Canadian applicant. So
And you'll work with big law, and they won't know how to deal with the Canadian because they're dealing with, Indian or Chinese nationals.
right, and there are some
And they don't know-
nuances.
yeah, they
some
don't know.
specific nuances with Canadian
There's a lot of exceptions for Canadians.
that they may not know how to take advantage of. So
We hear
be
that a
careful.
lot,
Right.
and they get bad advice because they just don't deal with Canadians, so they don't know how to handle
And we
Canadians.
see it on those message boards all the time where they say, I don't deal with Canadians normally, and I have a case, and I'm trying to make the appointment at the consulate. They keep telling me I don't need one,
Yeah.
and we're thinking, it's because you don't need one. You're putting your client through, an extra step that isn't required. So make sure your attorney is familiar with you and your country of nationality to make your process more straightforward and simplified.
And the last thing I'll add is beware of immigration consultants. They're not immigration lawyers
Well, right. So here in the United States, a lot of them are referred to as,
or notarios.
The
too.
notario, yeah.
Notarios, immigration
because
consultants.
typically they're targeting southern border applicants.
Canada, you have those consultants. They're
But in-
notorious.
Right, so you gotta be careful in Canada because we don't have them here in the United States. Immigration consultant is not a job
You
here
have
in
to
the
be a
US.
lawyer.
You either have to be an immigration lawyer or you're not doing immigration work.
Yeah.
The flip of that in Canada is you have your immigration lawyers, but they also have what's called immigration consultants. They are not qualified to practice law, and they are
They
definitely
mess
not
up
qualified
people's
to
lives.
practice U.S. immigration
Yeah.
law.
That's
So
awful.
be very careful if you're dealing with a U.S. immigration attorney or practice in Canada. If they have you dealing with an immigration consultant, that is the wrong way to go. We've seen a lot of messed up cases conducted by consultants that shouldn't have no business doing them.
Well, thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe so that you can hear upcoming episodes. Give us a thumbs up so that other people out there looking for similar content can find it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.